My name is Avery Blake. I'm 23 years old, and the night my mother told me I hadn't earned her help, my tuition bill was open on my laptop. She was on speakerphone laughing with my twin sister in the kitchen back home when she said, "We paid for Harper. She earned it. You didn't." Then she hung up. That sentence should have broken me. Instead, it pushed me somewhere none of them ever expected to see me center stage under a spotlight they couldn't escape. Before I keep going, tell me where you're watching from. And hit like and subscribe if you've ever been dismissed, overlooked, or told to be strong while someone else got saved. Stories like this don't happen in strangers' houses. They happen in families that look picture perfect from the outside. If any of that feels familiar, stay with me. From the outside, my family looked like the kind that mailed out Christmas cards in November, posed perfectly in front of our 2-story suburban house with white shutters, trimmed hedges, and a golden retriever named Max sitting obediently at our feet. Neighbors used to call us the Blake twins, and their perfect parents like we were something worth envying. But perfection is easy to fake when no one looks closely. All it takes is good lighting, matching sweaters, and a mother who knows exactly where everyone should stand. Harper always stood in the middle. I was always angled off to the side, close enough to be included, far enough to be forgettable. We were born 4 minutes apart, but those 4 minutes felt like a lifetime. Harper arrived first, loud, pink, dramatic. I came second, quiet, wide-eyed, according to the story Mom loved to retell. Harper came screaming into the world, she'd say, rubbing my sister's back fondly, and Avery just stared at everyone. So serious, so strong. Strong became a label before I even knew what it meant. To Mom, it meant I didn't need softness, didn't need attention. I didn't need anything at all. Childhood proved her point, or at least confirmed it in her mind. When Harper fell off her bike in the driveway and scraped her knee, Mom ran outside barefoot, scooping her up like she'd been shot. "Oh, sweetheart, my poor baby," she cooed, cleaning the tiny cut with trembling hands. The next day, I fell in the exact same spot. Same scrape, same blood. Mom looked over from the porch, tossed me a paper napkin, and said, "You're okay, Avery. You're tougher than that." I remember pressing the napkin to my knee, feeling the sting spread, and wondering if toughness was just another word for being on your own. Birthdays taught the same lesson. One year we were 10. Harper unwrapped a brand new iPod, polished white plastic gleaming her name engraved on the back. She shrieked, hugging everyone in turn. I tore open my identical box, only to find Harper's old iPod inside, covered with glittery stickers to hide the scratches. Mom beamed. "See, good as new. We even decorated it for you." I smiled for the camera holding the hand-me-down still warm from Harper's excitement. That photo ended up framed on the hallway wall. You can't see it unless you know what to look for, but I swear you can tell Harper glows and I shrink. School only widened the gap. Harper got by on charm and loud confidence. I got by on late-night studying and color-coded binders. Parent-teacher nights were predictable. My teachers would say Avery is doing great, and Mom would respond with a polite nod, eyes already drifting toward Harper's classroom. That's where she cared. That's where she hovered, listening anxiously as teachers explained Harper's potential if she applies herself. Dad would pat my shoulder on the way out. "We're not worried about you," he'd say like it was a compliment. What he meant was, "You don't cost us energy." In 8th grade, I won a citywide math competition. My name appeared in the local newspaper, along with a picture of me holding a certificate that felt heavier than the medal around my neck. The school invited me for a small TV interview, my first time on camera, my first moment that felt like mine. That morning, I found Harper in the mirror, Mom fussing with her curls. "Why is she coming?" I asked, already sensing the answer. "Because it looks better." Mom said simply. The camera loves symmetry. Twins make a nicer image. On set, Harper stood in the middle holding a bouquet Mom insisted on. I was pushed slightly to the side again, smiling stiffly, while the host congratulated the Blake girls. When the segment aired, Mom replayed it 3 times at dinner, praising how lovely we looked together. I watched myself near the edge of the frame and understood something quietly devastating. My accomplishments were more valuable when they made Harper shine. By high school, I'd stopped expecting fairness. I worked part-time at a diner off the freeway, coming home smelling like grease and burnt coffee so Mom wouldn't have to give me lunch money. Harper spent her weekends at malls with friends buying clothes with Mom's card. Dad said nothing. He rarely did. I didn't know it then, but those years were shaping me into someone who would survive without help, not because I wanted to, but because I had to. Senior year arrived like a train I couldn't outrun, loud, fast, unforgiving. While most kids floated through the final months on senioritis and prom plans, I spent mine juggling AP exams, the diner job, and late-night tutoring sessions I took for extra cash. Harper coasted, claiming senior year was about memories, not stress. That became her excuse for everything: skipping homework, blowing allowance money, coming home late, smelling like cheap vodka and peppermint gum. Mom worried, but in an affectionate way. She's under so much pressure, she'd whisper to Dad. Let her breathe. Nobody ever whispered that about me. College application season made the contrast even sharper. We applied to the same universities mostly because Harper refused to consider anywhere else unless I toured it with her first. We're twins, she'd say. We have to go together. But only one of us was treated like the priority applicant. When acceptance letters arrived, we stood in the kitchen tearing envelopes open. Somehow, miraculously, we both got into the same state university, same major. For a few shining seconds, everything felt balanced. Harper hugged me so tightly my ribs ached. We did it! Ave, she screamed. But that night, the balance died quietly. I was brushing my teeth when I heard my parents' voices drifting up the staircase. I meant to head to my room, but the tone in Mom's voice made me pause. She sounded decisive, dangerous even. I sat down on the steps, heart thumping. We'll pay Harper's tuition in full, she said. She needs to be able to focus. What about Avery? Dad asked. She got in too. Mom sighed like it was obvious. Avery's smart. She'll figure something out. Something inside me twisted. Figure something out. That was the blueprint of my entire childhood. Dad hesitated. But is that fair? Life isn't fair, Mom snapped. And Avery knows that. If we split it, neither of them will have enough. Harper needs this. Avery will land on her feet. I sat there, toothbrush still in hand, feeling that old napkin on a scraped knee sting. They weren't choosing based on need or logic. They were choosing based on habit. Harper gets rescued. I get reminded to be strong. The next morning, I packed my decision quietly. I wouldn't ask them for money. I wouldn't ask anyone for anything. If I was going to build a future, it would be with my own hands, even if those hands were cracked from dish soap and overwork. We moved to campus that fall, and our paths immediately split. Harper's dorm was high-ceilinged, bright, full of soft blankets and perfectly curated Pinterest decor. Mine was a tiny off-campus room above a laundromat. The building shook whenever someone overloaded a washing machine. Still, it was mine, my rent, my space, my reality. College didn't equalize anything. It magnified it. Every morning I passed Harper's dorm on my way to the library. Her window was always lit, music drifting out. Girls laughing, someone shouting, the smell of popcorn and perfume floating into the air. Inside the library, I shelved books under flickering lights while students typed frantically, stress-biting their nails. At midnight, I pushed the squeaky cart back to the closet, changed into my hoodie, and started walking home in the cold. Sometimes I caught my reflection in the glass doors, shoulders tense. Backpack hanging low, exhaustion etched into my face. I didn't recognize the girl looking back, but I knew her story too well. Harper floated through college on bubble letters and debit card transfers from home. Weekly deposits labeled support hit her account, while mine hovered dangerously close to overdraft. She bought new clothes, new skincare, new everything. I bought used textbooks and prayed for coupons. The memory that still burns happened sophomore year. I'd been studying with Harper in her dorm. She begged me to help her prep for a midterm she hadn't read a single chapter for. Halfway through an accounting example, her phone lit up. Wells Fargo notification. Incoming transfer $400 from Linda Blake. She just sends stuff. Harper shrugged. She knows college is expensive. I stared at her like I was looking at a stranger. They told me they couldn't help both of us. Harper blinked. Well, yeah, but you like being independent. That sentence hit harder than the tuition bill ever could. It wasn't just that she didn't understand, it was that she'd never tried to. Independence wasn't a choice for me. It was the only option I was ever given. That night, walking home alone under streetlights that buzzed like tired insects, I felt something shift inside me. Not anger, not yet, but clarity. A quiet knowledge that if I wanted a life beyond scraping by, I'd have to build it from scratch. I didn't know then how far that determination would take me. I didn't know the stage I'd step onto the spotlight that would find me, or the way my family's indifference would echo through a microphone in front of hundreds. I didn't know any of it. Not yet. College has a way of showing you exactly where you stand, not in grades or GPAs, but in who has a safety net and who doesn't. By junior year, that truth wrapped itself around me tighter than the winter cold. Most mornings started the same. My alarm went off at 5:45 a.m., long before the sun dragged itself over the horizon. My room smelled faintly of detergent from the laundromat downstairs and burnt coffee from the machine that groaned like it hated being woken up. I'd throw on jeans, tie my hair back, and head to my work-study shift at the library. While other students woke up to warm dorms and coffee delivered to their door, I walked through icy wind that cracked my lips and numbed my fingers. Harper's day started differently. She'd post mirror selfies at 10 a.m., captioned, "Trying to make it through this 8 a.m. LOL," even though the timestamp gave her away. She'd show off new sweaters, new boots, new eyeshadow palettes, everything funded by Mom's transfers. Meanwhile, I stood at the library front desk scanning in books with a barcode reader that screamed when it malfunctioned. One afternoon, right before midterms, Harper burst through the library doors wearing sunglasses even though it was cloudy. She smelled like coconut hair oil and expensive lotion, the kind I couldn't justify even touching at stores. She leaned on the counter where I worked, flipping her hair. "Can you help me with something?" she asked, pretending not to notice the people waiting behind her. "I'm literally working," I said. "Can it wait?" She pouted. "It's really quick. I need help finding an article for my accounting paper. The professor said it's online, but I can't find it. I thought, since you live here." She gestured around dramatically as if the library were my second home, which, in a way, it was. I logged into the database, found the article in 30 seconds, and slid the paper across the counter. Done. Harper blinked in awe. "You're weirdly smart." Weirdly, as if intelligence was a strange surprise coming from me. Then she added the line that lodged itself into my ribs. "You should slow down, though. You're going to burn out. You can't work all the time." I stared at her. "I have to." Harper shrugged, genuinely confused. "Mom would help you if you asked. You just don't want help." She texted while she spoke, barely looking up. That was the moment I realized something people like Harper think independence is a personality trait, not a circumstance. Later that night, after my shift, the air outside felt sharp with November cold. I zipped my coat all the way up to my chin and walked past Harper's dorm. Through her window I saw her laughing with friends, music pulsing faintly. Someone handed her a drink. She tossed her head back and smiled like the world had never demanded anything of her. I looked down at my cracked hands, rough from cleaning chemicals, and kept walking. Things got worse when tuition deadlines approached again. I was short. Again. Despite every shift, every tutoring session, every dollar stretched so thin it practically evaporated. Scholarships were competitive, and I hadn't heard back from the big ones yet. My stomach twisted every time I checked my bank account. One night, after finishing my cleaning shift in the business school, I collapsed into a plastic chair in the hallway. The building smelled like dry erase markers and floor polish. My backpack felt like bricks. I opened my banking app and stared at the number that might as well have been negative. I didn't cry. I just stared. That same week, Harper posted a story of herself at a boutique wearing a red cocktail dress. In the caption she wrote, "Retail therapy, thanks mom, thanks mom." She'd said it like it was a joke, like it was a luxury, like she didn't know I couldn't afford groceries. But she did know. A few days later I found out just how much. I went to her dorm to drop off a notebook she'd left in the library. Her room was empty, but her laptop was open on her desk. I wasn't snooping, I swear I wasn't. But when the screen lit up, a bank notification sat there in bright blue. Incoming transfer, $600 from Linda Blake. $600 in one deposit, in 1 week. That was more than I'd made in 2 weeks of cleaning classrooms until midnight. My vision blurred for a second. I felt heat rising behind my eyes, anger or shame, or something too tangled to name. Harper breezed in seconds later, dragging a shopping bag. "Did you get my notebook?" she asked, kicking off her boots. "Mom sent me money for my trip this weekend." She's the best. Trip. Not textbooks, not rent, not survival. A weekend trip. I placed the notebook on her bed. "Here." "You're a lifesaver," she said, hugging me with one arm, the other still texting someone. "Why don't you come with us this weekend? It'll be fun." "I can't," I said. "I work." "Oh," she said, frowning slightly. "That sucks. You should ask Mom for money." "I did," I said, quietly. "Once." She paused. "And..." I took a breath that tasted like dust and bitterness. She hung up on me. Harper blinked, confused, or pretending to be. "Mom wouldn't do that." "She did." Harper looked away, chewing her lip. "Well, maybe she misunderstood." She sat down, adjusting bracelets. "Everyone knows you're the responsible one. You don't need as much help." That sentence slid in like a knife between ribs, not sharp enough to kill, but deep enough to scar. Responsible one. Strong one. The one who can handle it. No one asked if I wanted to. That night, walking home under a street lamp that flickered every few seconds, I thought about the gap between us, how it started small, but stretched wider every year, and how I was always the one expected to bridge it. I didn't know then that the gap would shatter completely before long, not from something I did, but from something they failed to see. By the time senior year began, exhaustion had settled into my bones like a second skeleton, something rigid, something cold, something that kept me upright even when I wanted to collapse. The days blurred together, study work, again. My life had become a loop of fluorescent lights, cracked knuckles, and lukewarm coffee from vending machines that ate my quarters half the time. Then came the night everything snapped. It was a Thursday in late October. Rain hammered the pavement outside my building, each drop sounding like it wanted to punch holes in the earth. I was in the library's back office logging inventory on a glitchy computer that crashed whenever I breathed too hard. My head throbbed with numbers, tuition hours, worked, bills due.
Professor Marsh knocked lightly on the doorframe. He was one of the few adults who looked at me like I wasn't just a shadow. "Avery," he said gently, "you shouldn't be here this late. Go home."
I forced a smile. "I'm almost done." He studied me with sharp, knowing eyes. "You're working too much. This isn't sustainable. I'll be fine. You always say that. But you're not fine." I swallowed hard. "It doesn't matter." He hesitated, then stepped inside. "Have you ever considered applying for the Warren H. Ford Scholar Award?" I froze. Everyone knew that name. It was the most prestigious scholarship in our department, full tuition stipend, national recognition. "I don't qualify," I whispered. "You do," he said. "More than most." He placed a packet of papers on the desk. "Read this. And Avery, don't underestimate yourself." He left, and for a long time I just stared at the packet. My reflection on the computer screen looked like a ghost-eye's tired shoulders sagging. Was I really someone a professor would nominate me, the girl who scrubbed floors at midnight? The next morning I found the courage to look at the application. There were essays, recommendation letters, and transcripts. I could do the work, but something heavier sank inside me. Imposter syndrome, fear, whatever you want to call it. The voice in my head sounded like my mother's. "Harper earned it. You didn't." Still, I filled it out. Quietly. Alone. And I didn't tell my family a thing. The weeks crawled by. I worked harder, studied longer, and slept less. Some nights the silence in my apartment felt so loud it pressed on my chest. Other nights I'd fall asleep on my textbooks, waking up with ink smudged on my cheek and the faint taste of stale coffee on my tongue. Meanwhile, Harper floated through her senior year like a kite someone else held the string for. She joined a sorority, started dating a business major named Zach, who called me Harper's twin every time we saw each other. She went to brunches, parties, and weekend getaways to the lake. Her Instagram was a slideshow of sunsets, mimosas, and designer sneakers. One night in November, she called me out of nowhere. "Can you drive me?" she asked breathlessly. "My Uber app's glitching and I'm late. I don't have a car, Harper." She laughed like it was a joke. "Right. Sorry. I forgot. Forgot. As if my whole reality was something easy to overlook. Then came the moment that sealed the crack between us. I needed a few dollars to cover the printing fees for my scholarship packet. Not much, just enough to print everything in color like the guidelines suggested. I didn't want to ask Harper. I didn't want to ask anyone. But I was out of options. I knocked on her dorm room door, heart banging against my ribs. Harper opened it wearing silk pajamas, her hair in soft waves, holding a Starbucks cup. What's up? I need to borrow $15. Harper blinked. 15? Just to print some documents. I'll pay you back next week. She hesitated, looking over her shoulder at the girls inside. The music was loud laughter spilling out like glitter. She lowered her voice. "Avery, I can't just hand out money. Mom says we have to be responsible." Responsible! For a moment I thought I misheard, but she kept talking. "I already asked her for extra this month. I don't want her thinking I'm irresponsible, you know." My throat tightened. "It's $15. She winced. "Yeah, but maybe ask Mom." "I did," I whispered. "Once." She looked away. "Well, I just don't have it." But I could see the corner of a Wells Fargo envelope sticking out of her purse, another deposit. Harper must have noticed my gaze because she quickly shoved it deeper inside and forced a bright smile. "I'll help you next time." "Okay, I promise." There was no next time. I walked out without another word. The hallway felt colder than outside. My breath fogged in front of me. $15 wasn't the issue. It was the realization that Harper wanted to protect her image more than she wanted to help her own twin. I printed the documents in black and white. It didn't matter anymore. If they wanted color, they could disqualify me. I was used to being told something wasn't enough. Finals came and went. Winter passed in a blur of responsibilities I couldn't escape. And then one bright morning in early March, an email popped into my inbox. Subject line, "Congratulations, Avery Blake." My heart dropped. My hands shook. I clicked. "You are one of 5 national finalists for the Warren H. Ford Scholar Award." For several seconds, I forgot how to breathe. I read the email again and again until the words blurred. Professor Marsh had nominated me. They'd read my essays. They'd chosen me. Me. The girl who worked nights. The girl who walked home alone. The girl who learned to swallow pain quietly. I didn't cry. I didn't shout. I just sat there in my tiny room with the leaky faucet dripping behind me, feeling something bloom inside my chest, something sharp, bright, alive. Hope. But with hope came fear, because the next part of the process required something unexpected. Family attendance at the awards ceremony. I stared at that line for a long time. Family attendance is encouraged. Family. Encouraged. The irony tasted bitter on my tongue, but another thought slipped in soft and dangerous. Maybe it was time for them to see what being invisible had built. I didn't know how they'd react. I didn't know what would happen on that stage. But I knew one thing. Whatever came next would change everything. The morning of the Warren H. Ford Scholar Award ceremony felt unreal, like I was walking through someone else's dream. The sky was too bright, almost unnaturally blue, and the breeze outside the auditorium smelled like spring fresh-cut grass, wet pavement, the faint sweetness of blooming trees. Students in blazers and dresses hurried past me, their shoes clicking on the marble floor. My heart thudded in my ears with every step I took. I held the invitation in my hand so tightly the paper had creased along the edges. Family attendance is encouraged. I hadn't wanted to invite them. Every instinct told me not to. But a smaller voice whispered that maybe, just maybe, it was time for the truth to stand in the same room as the people who had spent years pretending it didn't exist. They arrived 20 minutes before the ceremony started. I saw them before they saw me. My mother, Linda, in a tailored navy dress. My father, Richard, straight-backed and stiff, like he wasn't sure if he belonged in a place with chandeliers. And Harper, glowing the way she always did in a pale pink dress that matched her lip gloss. Harper had her phone raised, recording the entrance like it was a fun outing. When she finally spotted me, she waved like we were old friends meeting by coincidence. "Avery, you look so pretty." I forced a polite smile. "Thanks for coming." Mom stepped forward, adjusting her pearl earrings. "You didn't tell us it was a formal event. We had to rush." "It's fine," I said. "You're here." She gave a curt nod like she'd just done me a favor. Dad's eyes darted around the room, absorbing every polished surface. "This is impressive," he murmured. "Quite the program." "It's a big deal," I replied. Before they could respond, an organizer approached me. "Ms. Blake, please head to the front row with the other finalists." I followed them down the aisle, feeling the heat of my family's eyes on my back. The hall was enormous, high ceilings, golden banners, hundreds of guests filling the rows. Soft orchestral music played through the speakers, but my heartbeat drowned most of it out. The finalists sat together, 5 of us in a neat line. I recognized one girl from a finance conference, another guy from an academic decathlon. Everyone looked nervous. Everyone deserved to be here. For the first time in years, I felt like I did too. Then the lights dimmed. The dean stepped onto the stage and applause rippled through the room. He gave the usual speech: honor, excellence, grit, dedication. Words I'd always associated with other people, not with someone who spent nights cleaning chalk dust off desks for minimum wage. Then the announcer took the podium. And now we recognize this year's recipients of the Warren H. Ford Scholar Award. These students represent resilience, leadership, and academic excellence. Their stories are extraordinary. My throat constricted. One recipient, he continued, showed exceptional determination. Despite receiving no financial support from her family throughout college, she worked night shifts at the campus library, maintained a top 1% GPA, and earned the highest departmental recommendation. The air shifted. My name wasn't called yet, but the room reacted. A murmur rolled through the audience like a low tide. I didn't look at my family. I could feel their stillness, their confusion tightening the space around us. The announcer smiled toward my row. "Please welcome Avery Blake." For a heartbeat, everything froze. Then applause erupted, loud, warm, overwhelming. I stood slowly, legs trembling. The spotlight hit me square in the face, bright enough to make my eyes water. As I walked toward the stage, I felt hundreds of eyes following me. Whispers, admiration, recognition. And behind me, 3 stunned figures. On stage, the dean shook my hand. His grip was firm, approving. "Congratulations, Miss Blake," he said. "I thank you," I managed. "You earned this." The words pulsed through me. I know. I didn't say it out loud, but something in my smile said it for me. I turned toward the audience. That was when I saw them. Mom pale as the flowers pinned to her dress. Dad frozen halfway between pride and shock. Harper, mouth slightly open. Phone lowered her eyes, shifting like she was replaying something in her head the night she'd overheard the phone call, the silence she'd chosen the $15 she wouldn't lend. A spotlight reveals more than faces. It exposes truths. After the ceremony, people swarmed around me. Professors, recruiters, strangers who know my name now. They shook my hand, offered congratulations, and handed me business cards with embossed logos. Somewhere in the crowd, Professor Marsh appeared, eyes warm with pride. "Told you," he said simply. When the crowd thinned, my family finally approached. Harper spoke first. "Avery, I didn't know it was like that." "Yes, you did," I said softly. "You heard Mom that night?" She flinched. I didn't think it mattered. It mattered to me." Mom stepped in quickly, trying to mask her embarrassment with irritation. "You never told us you were struggling. You never asked." Her lips tightened. "We thought you were fine." "You're the strong one. And that made it easier for you, didn't it?" My voice stayed low, controlled. "One less kid to worry about?" Dad cleared his throat. "We're proud of you, honey." I met his eyes. "You didn't even know what the award was." He swallowed, silent. A beat of stillness settled between us. "Heavy? Final?" Then a voice behind me called Ms. Blake Stonewell and Grant would like a moment. I turned. A recruiter stood near the window, smiling professionally. "Excuse me," I said to my family, stepping away. "I have a meeting." I didn't look back. Not once. At the recruiter's table, sunlight streamed through the tall windows, lighting up the polished wood. I sat down, hands steady for the first time all day. "Your story is remarkable," the recruiter said. "We'd love to have you in our New York office." A different kind of warmth spread through me, quiet, certain. When I finally glanced at the window's reflection, my family was still standing there. Smaller, distant, unsure. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel the urge to run back to them. The reception buzzed with laughter, clinking glasses, and the low hum of conversations that carried names of companies, internships, and futures unfolding in real time. I stepped outside for air, the award still clutched in my hand. The metal felt cool against my palm, grounding real. The courtyard was quieter, bathed in the soft gold of late afternoon sunlight. For the first time all day, I could breathe. My phone buzzed. A text from Mom. "We're proud of you. Let's talk later." "Okay." I stared at the message, thumb hovering over the keyboard. A month ago, I would have given anything to read those words. But now they felt like an apology wrapped in denial, too little, too late, too convenient. I typed slowly, deliberately. "Thank you. I'm busy right now." I hit send before I could edit myself. Back inside, as students posed for photos, Harper watched me from across the room. She didn't smile. She didn't wave. She just stood there, still holding her phone like she didn't know what to do with her hands. For once, she wasn't the twin people gravitated toward. She was the one searching for a piece of stability she had never learned to build. I didn't approach her. I didn't need to. Instead, I headed toward the exit, the award tucked firmly under my arm. With each step, the distance between me and the Blake family stretched not just physically, but in every way that mattered. On my way out, I passed a table filled with pamphlets about scholarship recipients. A picture of me was already printed on the banner, my name bold underneath. I paused, letting the moment settle. They thought their indifference would keep me small. They thought silence was harmless. They thought strength meant I didn't feel anything. But all they'd done was forge something in me they couldn't control. Later that night, when I got back to my apartment, I placed the award on my desk beside the leaking faucet and chipped paint. The room looked the same. I didn't. My inbox pinged. An email from Stonewell and Grant. Subject line: offer. Junior analyst position. I didn't hesitate. I opened it, read it, accepted. The future was already shifting beneath my feet, opening like a door only I could walk through. And as I started packing my bags for New York, I realized something quietly triumphant. They had given me nothing. And yet they had given me exactly the weapon I needed. If you've ever felt like the outsider in your own family, you're not alone. And if you're still fighting to prove your worth to people who refuse to see it, don't let them decide who you get to become. Before you go, tell me where you're watching from. Hit like, subscribe, and share your story in the comments. Because stories like mine don't end when the credits roll. They grow, they shift, and they find people who need to hear them. And trust me, this one isn't over.